Tony Bellew versus Adonis Stevenson for WBC Light Heavyweight Championship of the World. Let's get into it. I am going to start this review or post-fight analysis or investigation right back at the weigh-in where Tony Bellew thought it was a wise thing to engage with Adonis Stevenson, and I don't know what was said because I wasn't there, but it all kicked off quite similar to how it kicked off with him against Cleverly. And it's like, for me, you're taking the same approach you took at, I have to say, European level, and trying to use it at world level. And at European level, it works. At European level, you might be able to intimidate the old guy, but at world level, against a seasoned pro like someone like Stevenson, that doesn't quite work. In fact, it makes somebody train harder or more motivated to take your head off. And Stevenson has got one-punch knockout power at world level. Something that Tony Bellew, despite his nickname being the Bomber, had never produced. When you talk about a puncher and saying somebody's a puncher, you have to look at their record and who they've knocked out at world level. Not at European level, at world level. And I struggle to see how Tony Bellew was going to stop Adonis Stevenson. For the one reason is this. If you look at the fight with Kovalev against Bellew, as soon as Kovalev landed, I knew that he would knock Cleverly out because I knew Kovalev had atomic one-punch knockout power. When you look at someone like Bellew now, who when he fought Cleverly, if you look at the second round, he had Cleverly measured against the ropes and landed his big bombs. If he was any real puncher, there was no way Cleverly could have got off the ropes and started doing a silly dance in front of him, looking at him and beckoning him in and calling him in. And, Cleverly's legs were solid, and he boxed for the 12 rounds. There was no point in that fight that you could say that Cleverly was significantly rocked or hurt by Tony Bellew. So now, you take this into consideration. You're going into the ring against a guy that is a proven one-punch knockout artist. He did it against Chad Dawson. And you think to yourself, right, what's the game plan I'm going to have coming into this fight? So Bellew thinks he's going to box long, stay off the back foot, not get involved. But Bellew gets involved because he gets emotional. He never had the power to mix it with Stevenson. And for me, there's a huge difference between fighting for a final eliminator and then fighting for a world title. The final eliminator, for me, doesn't ensure or doesn't guarantee that you're going to even be good at world level, because the guy you might fight at the final eliminator level may not even be good enough to challenge for a world title, or be even good enough to beat the world champion that's there. And how people get about going to fight for world titles nowadays is questionable. Tony Bellew fought Chilembe. Again, Chilembe was not a one-punch knockout artist. And if you look at how Bellew fought against Oval McKenzie, and there's another guy he fought, he got dropped by heavily. You got to think to yourself, well, if he's getting dropped by these guys who are not world-class punchers because they've not fought at world level, then you think to yourself, well, okay, you know what? If Stevenson lands, when Stevenson lands, what's going to happen to Bellew? And you basically saw it. And the only question I ask myself is this. When Stevenson was landing the bombs earlier, Bellew seemed to be able to take it okay. But when Stevenson came out, I believe for the 5th round, and he actually went out there and landed properly, Bellew was over. I kind of wondered why didn't Stevenson do that in the first couple of rounds, whether Stevenson was a slow starter, or Bellew was, I don't know, or Bellew got caught clean properly for the first time. That I don't know. But there are some question marks. Is Bellew a natural light heavyweight? I know that he had fought as high as heavyweight as an amateur. And I always question it, even if you look at my pre-fight prediction about Bellew and his antics, that he likes to wind himself up before fights. And that drains a lot of energy out of you. Plus, if you're tight at the weight, that's even more of an issue. So, by and large, I think that Bellew got the Kovalev treatment with Stevenson. I don't think he was technically good enough to beat Stevenson. There were moments that he landed and you thought, oh, Could he do something here? But again, lack of punch power at world level. So, and the way he got knocked out, stopped at the end was quite frightening. The way his legs went from him at the end. Bellew needs to move up to cruiserweight for me, and I think Bellew would be a better cruiserweight than Nathan Cleverly, to be honest with you. I think he'd be a better fighter at cruiserweight. But there's much more I can really say. As for Stevenson, he shows he's got one-punch knockout power. He's got a left hand, which is, if it lands on you, my God, you're in a lot of trouble. Lots of talk about Stevenson versus Kovalev. I've done a video on this, on what I think of what happened if Kovalev and Stevenson fought. My thoughts are this: I don't think Stevenson wants to fight against Kovalev. Maybe he could chase a unification bout against Shumanov, or fight Hopkins. Those look like more likely fights. To be fair, on Stevenson, he has fought Cloud. He's fought he's fought Cloud. He's fought Dawson, and he's fought Bellew now. So all world-ranked fighters. So for him now to go and fight straight, or go and fight Kovalev, I think he deserves a break, which he rightly does. Take a break, come back, maybe fight Hopkins, or even Jean Pascal. Now that would be a good fight, Pascal versus Stevenson. Both Canadian, so that would be a great Canadian showdown. Yeah, so I think that would be a good fight forward. Of course, you've got Pascal versus Boutte. I don't know if that fight's still going ahead. If it is, then the winner of that. So I think that kind of rounds things up. Stevenson, development-wise, I'd like to see him throw more of a ramrod jab rather than this flicking jab. I also would like to see Stevenson throw a right hook, because he just seems to be able to throw just that left hand, and you kind of think if he can fight a guy, if he fights a guy that's able to avoid the left hand, such as someone like maybe Andre Ward, you know, how good is Stevenson then? So I also think Stevenson can be frustrated in fights. And from what I saw against Bellew, he can be frustrated. So I don't think that what Bellew did at the weigh-in helps. In fact, I think Bellew did what he did to psych himself up, because I think he actually was really intimidated by Adonis Stevenson. I really do. I think he was trying to psych himself up for the fight, but I think it spectacularly backfired against him. So, you know, commiserations to Tony Bellew. It's onward and up for Stevenson, and maybe, just maybe, you might see Bellew Cleverly 2 at cruiserweight. Those are my thoughts. This has been BWTMONLINE TV, and I'm out.